What's going on, y'all? He is the Architect 1111. Hope everybody had a great first Sunday. Hope you implemented and planned, how you want this 8th month to go and what you plan to accomplish. You don't have to share it, but if you feel like, sharing it in the comment section, feel free to do so. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video if it's something that you feel is edifying you. But we're gonna get right into it, man, guys. So we're on part 2 of Don't Retaliate. The victory is already provided. And we're going to another biblical story. So just to give you a little context, we're going to the book of Esther. And as we go to the book of Esther, Esther became queen. And as she became queen, she was known for her beauty, for her figure. She was very, very stunning. But her relative, Mordecai, who raised her, served in the courts of the king's castle, and he actually saved the king from, a plot on his life. And there was somebody, as there always is, a hater. It's always going to be some resistance to the devil, but his name was Haman, and Mordecai was a Jew. And once Haman found out that Mordecai was a Jew, not only did he want to kill him, but he wanted to wipe out all of the Jews. So, he enacted a plan to do so simply just because Mordecai wouldn't recognize him, because Mordecai wouldn't bow to him in some sort of subservient way. He didn't do that. So we pick up here, and it says right here, this is after they find out that Haman is going to implement and try to slaughter all the Jews. So we pick up in in the book of Esther, chapter 4, 13 through 17. And it reads, "And Mordecai told them to answer Esther, 'Do not think in your heart that you will escape in the king's palace any more than all the other Jews. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?' Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, 'Go gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan and fast for me, neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise, and I will go to the king, which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish.' So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther commanded him." So being that Esther was the king's wife, she still had to approach his majesty with caution and with reverence. You couldn't just pull up on the king and be like, "Yo, I gotta talk to you." You had to request to see him, because of royalty, even his wife. So Esther, does that. And when she does that, she said, hey, picking up in chapter 5, verse 7, it says, "Then Esther answered and said, 'My petition and request is this. If I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, then let the king and Haman come to the banquet which I have prepared for them, and tomorrow I will do as the king has said.'" So Haman is upset, because Mordecai still ain't bowing down. He's not being disrespectful, but he's just like, "Bro, who are you? You're nobody special. I don't gotta bow to you. You put your socks on 1 foot at a time, just like me." Or back then, sandals, or chancletas on 1 foot at a time, just like me. And Haman is so enraged after getting the good news, you know what I'm saying? Because he left thinking like, dang, you know what? I'm about to meet with the king and the queen. You know what I mean? They're honoring me. Like, what's gonna go on? So he leaves, And, he says to his wife, I saw Mordecai the Jew sitting at the gate. And basically, like, he's still just this thorn in my side. Like, we got to get rid of him. So his wife then said, let's get a gallows be made 50 cubits high, and in the morning suggest to the king that Mordecai be hanged on it. Then go merrily with the king to the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, so he had made the gallows. So there's always going to be some adversity, and there's always going to be somebody who doesn't like you just because you don't even have to do anything. You just showing up as authentically as you can is going to irritate somebody's demons, because they, one, aren't being authentic to themselves, and only they know that. And then two, your authenticity shines a light on who they aren't or who they're pretending to be. So basically, you're unintentionally raining on their parade. So they may go out of their way to betray you, possibly in some cases to unalive you, which is very, very heinous, as Haman was planning on doing to Mordecai. But God had other plans. He always has other plans. There's always another plan with God. We plan, but God sees ahead. So I say that to say, when we go off the path and seek to retaliate on our own, that's when God is like, okay, cool, you got this. You got this, because you know better than me, the omniscient one, the omnipotent one, and the omnipresent one. You know more than me. You're all of these things, which we aren't. And we don't know what's around that corner. We don't know what's further up the road. So it would behoove us to actually just surrender and say, all right, Daddy, as mad as I am, come to him with the anger. Come to him with the frustration. Even if you got to curse or scream or whatever. However you have to come to him authentically, and he'll accept that. He's not going to accept you acting like it doesn't bother you what they did to you, or what didn't happen, or how come this happened. He knows what's on your heart because he made you. As he said, even if you make your bed in hell, I am there with you. Or if you ascend, I am there with you. He knows our innermost feelings. He just wants us to be real with him and come to him and say, look, Daddy, this hurt. And as a man or a woman, at times that can be hard, because we've maybe been vulnerable and opened up and nothing has happened. People have exploited us. They betrayed us. They've lied to us. They sought to gaslight us, to act like what we experienced and what we felt and what we damn sure enough went through didn't happen, because they don't want to be accountable for their actions. They just want to skirt over it. So God can handle all of that, because he's God. His shoulders ain't small. He has big shoulders. So first, we just need to come to him. But Mordecai, as I said earlier, had basically foiled a plan that two of the king's workers were going to try to assassinate him. Mordecai foiled that plan. So before the banquet, Haman comes in to the king, and the king was talking to his servants, and he's like, you know what, Haman came into the king's quarters when he was talking to his servants, and he was talking to his servants because he couldn't sleep that night prior and to the banquet, and he was like, man, let me check the books. And he checks the books, and he's like, wow, somebody saved an attempt on my life. So has anything come of this? Or did they reward Mordecai? And the servants was like, nah, nothing was done. So just at that minute, Haman walks in, and the king is like, yo, Haman, what should be done for, the person that honored and saved the king's life? And because Haman is so prideful, he thinks that the king is talking about him. This is what he says. So he says in chapter 6 of the book of Esther, he says, the king's servant said to him, Haman is here, standing in the court. And the king said, let him come in. And this picks up in chapter 6 of Esther at verse 5, and I'm going to continue reading. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king asked him, what shall be done for the man whom the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, whom would the king delight to honor more than me? You see how the pride and just the spirit of entitlement is there? It's probably why Mordecai sensed that on him, and he wasn't going for it. He wasn't going at all. And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delights to honor, let a royal robe be brought, which the king has worn, and a horse on which the king has ridden, which has a royal crest placed on its head. Then let the robe and the horse be delivered to the hands of the king's most noble princes, that he may array the man whom the king delights to honor. Then parade him on horseback through the city square and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. Then the king said to Haman, hurry, take the robe and the horse as you have suggested, and do so for Mordecai, the Jew who sits within the king's gate. Leave nothing undone of all that you have spoken. Ain't it funny? Mordecai and the Jews and Esther are literally between a rock and a hard place. Seemingly no place to go. You got Esther, who has to live not only as a queen that she is, which is a luxury, but she has to live within the queendom and the laws. So she can't just outstep the boundaries. So the first part of the blessing that happened when they didn't retaliate against Haman immediately, they're allowing spirit and God to work through this, is she says, we're going to pray and fast, and I'm going to go to the king. And once I go to the king, if I perish, I perish, but I'm going to let him know what's going on. Boom. She says she wants the banquet, and she wants Haman to be there with the king, just them two. So she wants to do that. So the first part of the plan is working, and it's not retaliation. It's just being obedient to what the Spirit is telling her and what God is working through. The second part of that is it happened prior to that. See, we don't know the acts of kindness, the acts of things that we do seemingly just off the cusp and off of us being of us having integrity and not seeking to do things to be seen, but doing them because we want to be in morally right standing, not only with those around us, but with the Most High God who's always watching. Not only did Mordecai prevent that murder from happening, nothing had happened. So it's all coming into play. So because that had happened with Mordecai saving the king's life and nothing really being given to him, Haman is the one who actually blessed him. What does it say? And I will make your enemies your footstool. Not only did Haman have a disdain for Mordecai, he had a disdain unknowingly for Esther because she was a Jew as well. It just hadn't been revealed yet. But see, that's why you never put your mouth on people. You don't know how anointed and how covered they are by the hand of God. Just like how people are covered by dark entities, there are people out here who have spiritual families behind them that don't take no shit, that are with the shits. And as I said before, staying heavily in tune, they're with the shits. So be careful who you talk about, who you seek to go at, because who you're going at may seemingly look alone, but baby, they ain't alone. They ain't alone. And they wasn't. Esther and Mordecai were not alone. The Spirit of God was with them, and it shows through this. And the same person that Mordecai was going to impale, he had to bless with everything that he thought he was going to get. He had to go give. Whoo, it's getting hot in here. He had to go give that to Mordecai. So not only did he have the robe, not only did he have the chain and the signet ring with the crest, he is being pulled through the city. We in the city, hey, we be in the city. Chill, let me stop. Being paraded through the city on what you thought you were getting, but no, it's going to the person who God deemed worthy. People who exalt themselves will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. So you don't got to do a lot except just be obedient and let the haters hate. Shake it off. Shout out to T Swift. So what happens is they go to the prepared banquet, right? The one that Esther has invited Haman to, and it's just the king. And Esther is like, yo, I gotta say this. You know what I'm saying? She says it right here in 7. Whew. So the king and Haman went to dine with Esther. And on the second day at the banquet of wine, the king again said to Esther, what is your petition, Queen Esther? It shall be granted to you. And what is your request? Up to half the kingdom, it shall be done. Basically, like, what you want, I'll give you whatever you want. You want half of the kingdom? Here. Because Esther was that bad. Not like no IG model, not like no BBL. She was bad because there was none of that stuff back then. So you know she was fine shit. Clock it. So we pick up in chapter 7, and it says in verse 3, then Queen Esther answered and said, if I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be given me at my petition and my people at my request. For we have been sold, my people and I, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated. Had we been sold as male and female slaves, I would have held my tongue, although the enemy could never compensate for the king's loss. So King Xerxes answered and said to Queen Esther, who is he and where is he who would dare presume in his heart to do such a thing? And this where it get interesting. And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is the wicked Haman. Woo! I bet you could have heard a pin drop in that hall where the banquet was, because it was just Esther, her king, her hubby, and Haman. And Esther said the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. So Haman was terrified before the king and the queen. Then the king arose in his wrath and went from the banquet of wine and went into the palace garden. But Haman stood before Queen Esther, pleading for his life, for he saw that evil was determined against him by the king. When the king returned from the palace garden to the place of the banquet of wine, Haman had fallen across the couch where Esther was. Then the king said, will he also assault the queen while I'm in the house? As the words left the king's mouths, they covered Haman's face, and they, meaning the guards, they got him up out of there. Ain't it crazy? We don't have to lay a hand on nobody, but pray, fast, and truly seek God and have a contrite heart and not do any evil, because it's going to come back to you. What you put out is going to come back to you. I know. I've been there. It's going to come back to you. What you sow, you're going to reap. And it may not be tomorrow, the next day, a year from now, but karma is the most patient gangster. And she don't miss no addresses. So it says, verse 9, now Harabon, one of the eunuchs, said to the king, this is one of his, eunuchs, the men that are there with him, said to the king, look, the gallows, 50 cubits high, which Haman made for Mordecai, who spoke good on the king's behalf, is standing at the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him on it. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's wrath subsided. Yo. If that ain't a crazy turn of events, we gonna end it on that. Okay? Do not retaliate. The victory is already done. Had Mordecai tried to get even and be petty and be vindictive as Haman was and as his wife was, he would have received whatever his just due was, because the energy you put out there comes back to you. But no, he didn't. He left it in God's hands. He left it in his niece's hands, Esther, who was married to the king, And it all played out in the way that it should have, because they weren't doing anything wrong except living. And that's the thing that I want to end it on. Chosens, we don't do anything but just live. We incur massive tragedy, trials, and tribulations, because to whom much is given, much is required. Are we perfect? No. Do we do everything right? Heck no. Okay? We're going to sin. We're going to fall just like everybody else, because Romans 3:23 says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But check me out. All things work together for the good of those that love the Lord, who are called according to his purpose. And not only did Mordecai love the Lord, but his niece loved the Lord. Praying and fasting and doing things the correct way, not trying to sow discord, but speaking the truth. And from that truth, not only did she not have to retaliate, they got that parasite, that pariah, Haman, up out of here. And it's crazy. With those that wish on us, try to sow, it be coming right back to them. Return back to sender. What does Isaiah 54:17 says? No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Every tongue that rises against me in judgment, you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is from me, says the Lord. So I don't care what nobody say about, oh, you think you good because you go to church, or you think you good because you read the Bible. No, I know I'm good because I've been washed by the blood, beloved. I don't think I'm better than I am, because I know that I am a sinner. But Romans 5:8 says, but God demonstrated his love toward us while we were yet still sinners. Christ died for us. So I'm sorry, you can't hold my sin over my head, because as I was a sinner, while I was sinning, Christ said, you know what, I'm gonna pay the cost. And that's what happened. God intervened in this so wonderfully. And that's all I'm saying. You don't have to do anything. We 22 minutes in. I didn't intend for this to be that long, but hey, this got to get out. Whoever this is for, hold your peace. Pray, fast, seek guidance, seek wise counsel from whoever you need, and ask in faith for God to show you what to do. But don't retaliate. I'm not calling you to be a doormat. I'm not calling you to fall back and just take whatever people do to you. No, stand up for yourself. Mordecai didn't attack Haman, but he for damn sure enough didn't bow down. He looking at him like, bro, who is you? You know, it's a way that you can do stuff. And the way that Mordecai handled himself, it showed. He was upright, contrite, and pure heart. The same thing with his niece Esther, who was put in there just for this, to help him be saved and save her lineage of all the Jews. Not only did they kill Haman, they killed his sons. Not only did they kill Haman, but they pillaged everybody that was from Haman's ancestry. They call it the Feast of Purims, I believe, because that's when the Jews overtook and overcame the plot to assassinate them. Now, they didn't start the fight, but baby, did they finish it. And when I say finished it, they literally finished it, because there was no more of them left. And they still celebrate this feast within Jewish traditions every year. It's called a Feast of Purim. You don't got to do nothing, man. You may want to send that text. You may want to call your big brother. You may want to call Pookie and them. But don't get them involved. That's only going to lead to more chaos and confusion. And where there's chaos and confusion, God is not. God is not mocked either. For whatever a man sows, that shall he reap. Aha. Don't do it, beloved. Don't do it, chosen. Hold your head high. I don't care if you got to walk out of there crying. If you got to block their number and it feels like you can't breathe. But don't retaliate. They will get their just due. And you know what? It's not up for you to see it. It's not up for you to wonder when it's going to happen. It's up for you to leave it in God's hand and heal. That's the best thing you can do. Heal. Because healed individuals are dangerous individuals. A healed person is quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, because human anger does not produce the righteousness of God. I'm going to need you to know that. Take your time and allow God to work. Do not retaliate. The victory is already won. The victory is already won in this book of Esther. You can see the way it played out. By Mordecai saving the king. By Esther, his niece, being married into the kingdomship. Everything was set up. But Haman and his evil wickedness thought he could usurp what was set up because he thought he was big shit. He is the architect 1111. Don't do it, beloved. Let God handle it.